I will now call to order the THPRD Board of Directors meeting for November 12th, 2025. Jessica, would you please call roll?
Barbie Miner,
Here.
Tia Ping,
Here.
Alfredo Moreno,
Here.
Miles Palacios,
Here.
Pradnya Patel.
Right. We do not have any action resulting from executive session, so we will move along to agenda item number 4, our proclamation honoring National Native American Heritage Month. I would like to welcome those who are in attendance this evening for our proclamation and turn it over to our Equity and Engagement Manager, Lulu Ballesteros, for introductions.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you to the board. I'm here very briefly with the greatest honor to introduce, and some of you already know, Melanie Ruelas, our fantastic collaborator at Conestoga. Melanie and her team have been amazing hosts and co-producers of a lot of meaningful activities and events. So with that, I have Melanie.
Thank you. I want to start off by saying I'm truly honored to be here today to introduce Johnny, someone who I've had the pleasure of working with over the past 3 years to bring meaningful community events like the Mexican New Year and Dia de los Muertos celebrations to life. Johnny is a dancer of Indigenous ancestry and a deeply respected community connector, building bridges among many Indigenous groups locally and across the country. He's deeply rooted in his culture and shares it with such heart and authenticity, bringing people together through danza, storytelling, and celebration. Through his work, Johnny creates spaces where diverse Indigenous voices are represented and honored, reminding us of the strength and beauty of cultural connection. With that, it is my pleasure to introduce Johnny Martinez.
Okay. Okay. No worries. No worries. So, thank you again for having me present. My name's Johnny Martinez. My name's Johnny, and I've been in the Beaverton community for about. But I have a danza group, and we promote not just the native part of Mexico up here, then also we also promote it and then also try to educate people on also the history, the natives from Mexico. And I am very glad Melanie and Lulu for giving us the opportunity, space to for us to go and express traditions in our ceremonies, because I think it's very, very, very important for us to have that space and time other for the other people to know that like that you have provided for us, right? Us to come together and make a big ceremony, and then with that said, I think they asked me to tell. They asked me to come here. I'm sorry, I'm a little bit. I'm just like.
Take your time. Take your
Yeah,
time.
but and on top of that, I invited some other people here too because my friend Puma, and then Hannah's supposed to be here too, but she's from Salem. I made another call to some other communities too that are natives that were still around here too. Um, and I think it's very important us to also say that thank you for the spaces, but then also we still need more spaces. Don't don't have a space for us to go in and especially feel safe, you know, to be going to the park to having our danza practices. When I started doing danza ceremony or danza practice here in Beaverton, I would get the cops call all the time for us, and then outside of the Beaverton Library, and then on top of that, we would have
people throw oranges and apples at us when we are dancing. And I want to make this very, very clear because what we try to promote, it's it's not just our traditions, it's not just art, it's a way of life for us. What we strongly believe, but our this is what makes this is what makes Beaverton, grow more because this is our colors, these are our cultures, right? And I believe that for us to have um, actually feel safe and just feel that feel wanted around here, it's a big thing. And I think and I give also thanks to Melanie and Lulu for that. 'Cause I think they provide us with spaces like that, and then also it's just with them. When I go to other places with the public parks or other things, I don't get the same treatment, you know. Um, and this has happened for 10 years. I live just 2 blocks away from here. I go to the parks around here and I go and try to do danza practice and I try to open up a circle for for not just adults, but for mainly for students and also young people that way because I really feel that it's important for them to have some acknowledgement of where they come from because that's what makes us stronger, right? As a community too. 'Cause as long as I know that what I am, I could come here and speak my truth. And the stuff that it's happening that a lot of people might not see. So, but yeah, other than that, thank you again for having us. I am very, 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 very um, nervous to be here. But then also, I thank you too because it's kind of hard for me to come and speak my truth. A lot of people don't come because we're scared, especially right now with the whole ice thing that's happening. It's very, very scary, you know. So I thank you again for having this, open space, and I feel very appreciated too, for giving me the time for this. But then I'll pass it on to Puma.
Thank you, Jun. Shokatap chiwe chiwonohel, utsi petik, utsi kolem chiri chiwe, ich kamikri, matio shech chechri lokala hahaw, cheshuya bech kesh hul chiri, kohkai chochla, kohchau chochla, kohchon chochla, I shok petik ruk lewech il chiri, korekita hekri, matio chiwe chiri tayik chiri klik. I just wanna say thank you for having us here with asking permission to creator to guide us, to let us speak and hear by all of you here tonight. And I appreciate the invitation that Yone gave it to me. My name is Byron Lorenzo Tzokwarchach, aka Puma Tzok. I'm from the Maya Nation, Central America, and I've been living here in United States for a long time of my life. And I think what Johnny just shared with you about us, our need as indigenous people, it's reality, and we still struggle to find those spaces. Even if we hear many times that people give us space to allow us go and practice our ceremonies, it's still challenging for us because we always tend to work around schedule time. They allow us to practice our ceremonies for 3 hours, 2 hours, half a day. But in reality, our ceremonies, as he mentioned, it's a way of life for us. And we don't want to give time, we don't want to set time, practice our ceremony. Want to be free practicing our ceremonies, our dances, and but also having spaces where we can feel safe. Because our ceremony, it's not for us. Our ceremonies, it's future generation. Our grandpas and grandmas teach us, share us that we always pray and for the past 7 generations, but also for the next 7 generations. Those are the ones who will carry all this tradition. And without spaces where we can practice our ceremonies, it's difficult. So I think we kindly ask you that that support that you can provide. I don't want to say if, because I know that you can. You can provide a space, ask in a kind way, respectful way. You can help us to keep practice our sermon, keep walking freedom, and teach, share our ceremonies, future generation with the community, our indigenous community. My brother here, he's from the Mexican nation, right? I'm from the Maya nation. But also we share spaces with Native American folks here. So that's how our community works. That's how our indigenous community, that's what we are. We share. By sharing, we learn, keep teaching our. So I appreciate it for that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, gracias por sus palabras. I think it speaks volumes at how far we've come that you were able to come, and at least this was a place where you could feel free to come be nervous and speak real talk to us. And I think I speak for everyone in saying how much we appreciate hearing that directly from you. And I'm grateful for the relationships that you have with our staff, and I think we can start to build and evolve and grow. But thank you from the bottom of my heart for being here. That makes these things very special. So we have a full proclamation. If you all have interest in a photograph or anything like that, we can do that. Is that okay? It's up to you. Optional. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. We're going to move along to our audience time. And I believe we have some folks who have signed up to testify tonight. Okay, a few more coming. While I'm getting this, I'll read basically our preamble here. Public comment is an essential part of government meetings, and the board is grateful for all who participate. This is a valuable opportunity for us to listen to community perspectives on district issues. We thank everyone in attendance for doing your part to maintain a spirit of mutual respect and courtesy as speakers and listeners in the space. The logistics, speakers will have 3 minutes each, will be called in the order in which they signed up, with priority given to those addressing items on tonight's meeting agenda. It's not a time for dialogue. We're here to listen, and we will ask our general manager, Doug Menke, to follow up as needed. Let's see, public testimony may always be shared in writing as well if there's more you want to say that you don't have a chance to. And our district staff will ensure that the full board receives a copy of any testimony submitted via email. And I can vouch they do that warmly and accurately. So, okay, so we are going to open with Sebastian Nicholas. You are first up. And then let's see, I got to remember the instructions. You just need to say your name and zip code for the record. Thank you. It's been a minute since we had some testimony, so welcome.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Sebastian Nicholas. My zip code is 97225. I'm on the board of the Tualatin Hills Dive Club and here on behalf of the Dive Club. I'm here this evening to ask for THPRD's assistance, the board, in reversing a decision made by the Aquatic Center to reduce our hours. The normal process with the affiliate clubs and the Aquatic Center is to set your pool allocation for the subsequent quarters. Which we did in early October, but we were informed a week and a half ago that they would be reducing our prime time by 40%, 4 hours a week. This is kneecapping a club that essentially requires this pool. The Tualatin Hills Aquatic Center is the only pool that has the facilities necessary or with the necessities that we need to operate our program. Our club has gone through some dark times. The pandemic, you probably saw the news. We had a former board member who was embezzling and so forth. We are emerging from that. We were just able to make an offer 3 weeks ago to a new coach who has D1 college experience. Like, we are ready to up the dive club, what they can offer to the community, to a premium dive experience with future options for kids that want to do this recreationally or professionally. Let's see here. I'm trying to keep it quick because I know I'm down to a minute 30. You know, we've been affiliate club with the Aquatic Center now for decades. We've been in good standing. We've tried to work with the community. We have had what feels like, or we've weathered what feels like a one-sided and uncompromising relationship sometimes with the Aquatic Center. There are a lot of people fighting for space. We try to be amicable. You know, we were part of the biggest contribution to building the Dryland Center. And so we're not asking for more. We just, and we are willing to negotiate, but we cannot lose our prime time hours in the middle of the week. It's just kneecapping us. And in the middle of the season, we just established our schedule. And we're not able to work with the management right now, Andrew and Patrick, I believe, and we're just not able to work with them to a fair resolution. I just feel it's unethical that this happened in this manner. You know, I'm down to 30 seconds. Like, we really, you guys, this dive program is a niche thing. And like, we are the only club in the entire state of Oregon. The Aquatic Center is the only place that this activity can happen, the only place with a platform. I have 2 more people that are going to follow up. I thank you so much for your time. And I appreciate if you can offer some assistance moving forward with, you know, retaining the time that we have already been promised. So, thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Thank you very much. Okay, up next, Sarah Nicholas. And you can restate your name and zip code for the record before you start.
Okay. My name is Sarah Nicholas, zip code 97225. I am here to advocate for the Tualatin Hills Dive Club. Springboard and platform diving is an incredibly unique and non-mainstream sport. It requires specialized equipment, 1 meter and 3 meter springboards with functional fulcrums so the athletes can make individual and personal micro adjustments, as well as a tower with 5, 7, and 10 meter platforms. Tualatin Hills Aquatic Center is the only facility in the entire state of Oregon, southern Washington, and eastern Idaho to possess such equipment. For some diving education, divers compete in multiple events, 1-meter event, 3-meter event, and platform event, which is why having access to the appropriate equipment is so crucial. As Sebastian mentioned earlier, the Dive Club has worked in partnership with the Tualatin Hills Aquatic Center for decades. He also touched on the headwinds we faced internally as a club, but also how we persisted and are just now truly beginning to thrive. 2 weeks ago at a monthly meeting between the Aquatic Center and Dive Club, we were informed that the Aquatic Center plans to eliminate 40% of our weekday pool time effective March 31st. This was both disheartening and infuriating. As it is, the Dive Club's monthly prime weekday time is minimal in comparison to any other Tualatin Hills aquatic affiliate. Currently, the Dive Club has pool time Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. to 7 p.m., 2 hours. 2 nights a week, we have 4 lanes, so we can safely use all levels of the tower, 5, 7, and 10 meter. And 3 nights a week, we have 3 lanes, which means we cannot use the 7 and 10 meter platform. This model is more or less what we've had for at least the past 3 years, possibly longer, and has worked great. During these 2-hour time slots, the Dive Club runs recreational, masters, and competitive programs simultaneously. Recreational divers get to train at the same time as the competitive divers. This creates
That's okay. We can hear you. Yep.
Okay, the green disappeared. Okay. My 10-year-old daughter at the time began diving once a week in the recreational program. Little did she know, she was actually practicing alongside a future Olympic qualifying diver. A few months in, and my daughter quickly fell in love with this challenging sport and progressed up to the competitive team. Soccer, softball, basketball, she tried the mainstream sports, but was not interested. Is that okay?
That's okay.
Can you hear me without it?
Yeah. No, you're fine.
I believe many of our athletes would echo these sentiments. Losing valuable water training time feels like makes diving both unique and special. Diving is not swimming. We cannot simply go and train at any other pool.
Feel free to finish if you're
Oh, I got to the end.
okay.
We'll submit it.
Yeah, I'm so sorry about the
That's okay.
technical difficulties. Yeah, everything's flashing and beep. Thank you for understanding. Thank you for your testimony. All right, do we want to see what's going on with the mic before we? No, it's like a short circuit zone, right? Okay, it's not flashing red, right? Okay. 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 Well, let's, Sharon Zell, you're the next person to testify and test our microphones. Welcome.
Mic number 19. All
And
right.
once again, if you can just say your name and your zip code for the record, and then you can start.
Sure thing. My name's Sharon Zell. My zip code is 97229. I am a board member at Tualatin Hills Dive Club. I've been a board member for 2 years, and my daughter's been diving for about 3 on the competitive team. I want to finish up something that Seb was saying about the Aquatic Center offering us some additional pool time. They offered us additional hours on the weekend. However, the pool is often closed on weekends. We're already losing weekend time. For example, in last spring, the dive team lost valuable tower training time for multiple consecutive weekends in the middle of our competitive season as well. In the next 2 months, we're missing 4 consecutive Saturdays of water time beginning November 2nd through November 22nd. there are swim meets and a water polo tournament. We will have one weekend back in the pool because before there is another closure on December 7th for yet another swim meet. So that's a real issue for our club being able to perform. One of the things that we were told was that the aquatic center is trying to be more equitable to the athletes. Obviously, swimming has many more athletes. However, swimmers can go lots of different places. Divers cannot. We don't insist on having 4 lanes of the pool every day that we're there. We already are attempting to be equitable to the water polo team, to the swim club, and giving up or sharing the available lanes when we can. This means that our athletes are stuck in, if you want to be a tower diver, you can't come any day of the week. You have to come on certain days because those are the days when the tower is available. That also, when we lose weekends, we lose tower time as well. Our more competitive divers, the ones that pay more and need the equipment more, are then that opportunity is taken away. We have also offered to Tualatin Hills, to the Aquatic Center, to give back our Friday time in exchange for securing a pool time at the Beaverton Swim Center to work with our recreational program. And that's the only other pool that we can really use. Additionally, we can't afford to have multiple coaches. We're a small club, and we have been working so hard over the past 2 years to make this, to come back from the embezzlement and from COVID. And we've got this great new coach, and we'd really appreciate the opportunity to make this program what it can be. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I think we had a few more come in. Yep. Okay. Thank you. Okay, Courtney Brown, you are next up. Right, you've got a wide range of options of microphones. When you're ready to start, just state your name and your zip code for the record, and then your time will start.
Okay, my name is Courtney Brown. I'm representing 97005. And this is regarding the part of the park in front of the LC Stewart Center that the city of Beaverton wants to put houses in. So I'm representing Pilgrim Lutheran Church, which uses that field. I'm a lifelong community member of Beaverton. I was a Pilgrim Lutheran student. They have a school. I'm a current church member. I'm a Beaverton School District teacher, and a mom of 3 kids who attend the church. And not only would the school and the church and childcare lose its play and sports fields if that was sold and houses were put there, it would also negatively affect our neighbors at the Stewart Center and affect the great partnership we've had with THPRD in the city of Beaverton for decades. Like I said, I grew up there. My kids and I have both attended and now attend THPRD programs. My brother works for THPRD, and I just feel like, THPRD's mission statement of community and green space, that just selling a park that's in downtown Beaverton would be a mistake. There's also a lot of kids and adults from the community who walk over and use the playground. It's definitely in the fields. It's definitely not a vacant lot like it was stated. And also, now that less people are going to downtown Portland, we've seen downtown Beaverton is growing a lot. And if we lost, I just feel like it's very vital to the city. And it would also increase a lot of pollution and congestion around the heart of the city. That area is already really crowded. The library, the police station, it would just become a hazard, I think, if there were houses put in there. There wouldn't be anywhere for LC Stewart Center to park, and they use our parking lot as well. So I would just ask you, please consider not taking away all of our memories and our city heritage and our precious natural space that we have there that the city won't be able to get back if we put houses there. Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Okay, Clara Davis, you are next up. Welcome, Clara. It's absolutely okay. You are much braver than I would be right now, let alone at that age. So, welcome.
I'll just introduce her. This is my daughter, Clara Davis, 97005, and she is 12.
For Easter egg hunts every year and camp every year, and all the kids like to play in it, and the park is really fun even though I'm like older, and I like to play with my little cousins and my little brother on it, and they're like running in the field.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. You're always welcome to come back anytime. Okay, Robert Thompson, the microphone will be yours. Welcome, and then if you can just one more time, just say your name and your zip code for the record.
The meeting didn't start until 7 o'clock. You already get here and everybody been here since 5:30, so. Anyway. STIR will be if,
Oh, I'm sorry, just I think we have to have you say your name and your zip code to start, and then you're on the record and floor is yours after that.
What did you say about?
Your name and your zip code?
Oh, my name is Robert Thompson. I'm in 97008 down there in Greenway, Shoals Ferry Road, west of Washington Square,
Perfect, and then.
close to Tigard.
Great, me too. And then you'll have 3 minutes whenever you're ready to start.
Three. Is there anybody here from the city of Beaverton?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, well, anyway, I thought there would be. So anyway, Elsie Stir, if they lose the property out in front, which I always thought was a park, and City of Beaverton calls it excess property, Elsie Stir will be a flagged lot hidden behind whatever's built in front. It's also already hard for seniors to find it, at least find it the first time. After you know where it is, okay, but a lot of people tell me, oh, I drove by, couldn't find it, so I'm not going to Elsie Stir. So anyway, my theme is risk. Bordered by 2 churches with agreements with current members. Church on the south trades parking space for park space. For their school, church on the north lot is part of their lot. Let's see. On the north, we park in their lot, but there's no trade-off that I know of. If either church has a committee or changes its mind due to insurance risk or lawsuits from someone injured on their property, STIR could lose parking space. Church in the south has children come and going from the playground, and STIR has older drivers. It's a bad combination already. so the possibility of loss of parking space is a real risk. Churches do change. Pastors change, committee members change. Some churches outgrow their facilities. Some churches lose members. Members fade away. The individuals that the Tualatin Hills will be dealing with today will be different people over time. So agreements are risky. Without having an option to convert the park in front for parking, the LC Stir facility is at risk. Where in Beaverton could a new center be built? So anyway, page 2. Since there's nobody here from Beaverton, this may be pointless, but the city of Beaverton should look for other locations for housing. The grassy park in front of the library would be a good place for a low-income apartment building. It could serve library patrons if it had a coffee shop, a donut shop, and a cafeteria on the ground level facing the library. The parking is good, the street access good, and there's a park just across the street on Hall Boulevard. The space I'm talking about hasn't always been green grass. When I came here in the 60s, City Hall was on the corner of 5th and Hall, and the fire department faced 5th. It was all in a one-story white Spanish-style building.
Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate your time. Any other for testimony? Okay. We are a little ahead of schedule. We are moving on to our board time. With the grace of my colleagues, and we're gonna get our mics recalibrated here. I've asked my colleagues for their forgiveness for a slight breach of protocol here, as the board president normally doesn't speak first during board time or any other time really, but I'm going to go ahead and do so. So many of you know, I pride myself on being a bit of a pragmatist and intentionally somewhat slow to react to things when I need more time to marinate and think. So this is certainly no social media hot take, but I felt it was important as this board's president and a second generation U.S. citizen born half a mile from the Mexican border to make a statement on the record to our community and equally as importantly to our staff who may be listening here or later. I've been emotionally gutted and beyond frustrated by the seemingly indiscriminate fear, pain, and cruelty being inflicted upon our community members here in and around our district in the name of so-called immigration enforcement. No matter your political persuasion, I have a hard time believing anybody would vote to inflict this kind of damage on families, businesses, schools, and our sense of community. I think even the most casual observer knows that it just ain't right. I want to commend the leadership and empathy my fellow board members have shown in working to address this issue. I'm incredibly grateful for our staff and their ongoing community care. I believe our elected officials across the region are good-hearted people, most of them serving as volunteers, more or less, who are near universally repulsed by what's happening to our neighbors. They're also trying to navigate the unprecedented while adhering to the United States Constitution and keeping a hand on the steering wheel of our respective jurisdictions' core missions. It's a level of complexity that all but ensures the local governmental responses will be too much for some, too little for others. THPRD is no different. We're navigating legality. We're trying like hell to figure out how we can support our most vulnerable with substantive actions while also continuing to ensure access to high quality park and rec resources for everyone in our district. As elected officials and public entities, We all have a role to play in contributing to general community welfare wherever we can relative to our mission, be it in housing, economic development, community health and safety, or belonging. And I want anyone who may encounter this statement to know that we all take that seriously. We're going to have a discussion about what we're doing now and possibly can do in the future later on in this meeting. And again, I know some of my peers have been very engaged in trying to figure out ways to help, and I commend that effort. I hope everyone will have faith that we're all doing what we can to learn and think and act based on our individual leadership approaches and analysis of where we can make an impact. Nobody wants to see families continue to be devastated and some of our most vulnerable community members cruelly targeted. Thank you. So I will very awkwardly segue from that into anything else that anyone else wants to say. But thank you for giving me the grace to say my piece at the onset. So we have time. Anybody else have anything you need to say? Or are you just going to leave me hanging awkwardly?
I'm not going to leave you hanging. This is I am so grateful that you took a moment to share those thoughts. And while I know that this time is dedicated for our committee liaison updates, there's really nothing else that seems more pressing at this moment. And I am grateful for our staff. I am grateful for my peers. And I think this is an all hands on deck moment, and you said it very eloquently. And there's many different levers that can be pulled. There's many different barriers that are in place. I continue to hear we can't. And what I'm appreciative of is that I'm sitting next to colleagues who are dedicated and committed to figuring out what we can do. And so I'm eager to hear later how our equity engagement team has continued to meet this moment. And I want to hold space for those who are most impacted. And I recognize that it must be incredibly difficult to be on the solution side of trying to do your day job and sustain your well-being, while many of our folks on our staff are very much personally impacted. And that just does not go unnoticed from me or from my peers here. And I thank you for having the courage, the resiliency, to step up in this moment when many of you have lived experiences that make you absolutely and your community victims of this racial terror that we are all experiencing. And so I just hope that we can center and be reminded that this is so much more than, to Alfredo's point of politics. This is basic human rights. This is human dignity. And we have a constitution, and I do feel that I recognize we are on the Parks Board, but you, my peers, have heard me say, and I will continue to say, we did swear an oath to the Constitution, and I do believe in due process and adhering to the oath that we swore to that Constitution, and I will do everything in my power to meet this moment. And I'm here for community.
Thank you. Others about things profound or more the day's business, or you are free to it's your board time, so please, whatever you want to share about anything.
I
Yeah.
just want to echo both what you guys have said, and I think just taking the time for this, just for people who are watching or listening, that we as a board stand very much behind all of our community members, and we've heard and we feel and we have connections of how this ongoing political stuff is affecting everybody and everybody's safety. And we heard it today in just our proclamations about how our job is to try to create spaces that are welcoming and safe. And we've heard that, and we are actively trying to work towards something. We are not here to say we can't. We are here to try to also do as much as we can and push the boundaries. And our staff are very great at hopefully being able to do as much as we can to do that, because that is our goal. Our goal, we are an integral part of the community that's supposed to bring people together, make sure we feel safe, have people recreate, have people come together and celebrate our community and our lives. And so I just wanted to put it out there that we hear you, we are with you, we see you, and we are going to do whatever we can. And I think we did have our board retreat last month, and this was one of the major discussions that we had. And then you'll see it in our values and budget this evening that we are trying to do everything we can. And we see this as a main focus for the time to come. So, yeah. Mhm.
Any other updates, comments? Miles?
No committee updates. Fiduciary committee is meeting tomorrow. But to the topic at hand that we are all commenting on, I think the only thing that I can add to that is to summarize in kind of a tight note here is that we have recognized the challenges. We are talking about solutions, and we recognize that those things alone are important, but they mean nothing without action, and that is what we are working towards.
Rodney, anything?
I just want to call out the effort that the staff is taking to make sure we kind of, get to a point where we can maximize what we can do for our community members. It is hard to figure out where that line is of pushing boundaries. And I recognize the effort that Doug and team is putting in, having those conversations, making sure that we make the resources available internally for our staff as well as for our community members to do their jobs, but to also protect our community members as best as they can. So I just want to I'm excited to hear more later today in terms of the actions, but I just want to take a moment and say thank you to everyone.
I did just want to add that I was able to attend what you would call it, a soft opening kind of session for the Dougie Center West, which will be opening across the street from HMT. I believe that was this week, maybe Monday. Monday, thank you. And so that was a really good experience. Just I was kind of familiar with their mission. The Dougie Center is a center that addresses the needs of grieving children and families. I think there's a lot of good opportunities in the coming years to align with their work and support. And I'm really grateful that they'll be open right there. So encourage everyone to learn more about what they're doing, and we'll have plenty of opportunities to engage there. So okay, well, we'll move on to agenda item number 7, and I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda. Who's first?
I move that the board approve the consent agenda as submitted.
I will second that motion.
Okay, first and seconded. Jessica, would you please get the vote?
Barbie Minor,
Yes.
Pradnya Patel,
Yes.
Miles Palacios,
Yes.
Pam Ping,
Yes.
Alfredo Moreno.
Yes. All right, we are up to agenda item number 8, the general manager's report. Aisha and the floating head of Bruce Barbarash.
Okay. Good evening. I'm Aisha Hannes, your Deputy General Manager, and Bruce is on the line but muted because he is now dealing with what I've been dealing with for the last 4 weeks and has a terrible cough. So I'm going to try and take this on his behalf, and I think it's going to get on the screen in just a moment. So as we are doing each and every month, we're providing information about how our process is continuing on with regard to the 2026 replacement bond preparation. And where we are right now is focused on looking at our different categories and the projects that might make up those different categories. So what you see on the screen here are the 5 different categories that we've sort of coalesced around, as well as a portion of the bond that is what it costs to actually deliver on the projects that we would propose to put into this package. So of the 5 project-based categories on the screen, these do not represent any very, very refined information. This is more a split out of the projects that were defined before we've done any work to prioritize based on feedback we've gotten from our task force. So you'll see that we've got a big chunk of funds that would be allocated for the recreation parks and community spaces, but based on information that could shift. Some of those funds could go to a different category. Where we have overlap of categories in the 2008 and this potential 2026 bond, they're pretty similar numbers. So connected trails, I think was about 19% of the bond back in 2008. We show it as about 23%. So they're kind of relating to each other fairly closely. But again, this is the starting point for those allocations just based on the projects that were floating to the top for us. So we wanted to provide you a little bit more information about the projects that, like I said, have floated to the top in each of these categories. So I've got 2 slides for each of the 5 primary project-based categories. You can see on the right side, we're showing our large regional trails. Those would be the focus of our funding. And we have, as you can see on this sheet, we've called out the West Side Trail Bridge as a separate project. It is a large project. It is a project that would take a significant amount of funding to do. So what is represented in this category is the amount it would take to complete that project. We hope that's not what would happen, that we'd be able to continue to obtain more grant funding along the way, but that would allow us to complete that project. You can't just build half a bridge. We don't want to try, at least. So then you see Rock Creek, West Side Trail, and Fano Creek are big regional systems. And so what you'd look at there are completing those segments. So West Side Trail has a segment north of the bridge that is yet to be complete. So we could work on that. But there's also segments of all of these trails that are substandard. And these are well-loved trails, lots of people out on them, but they may be only 4 to 6 feet wide in some cases, which on a nice summer day is a real bottleneck for folks. So those are what you'll see in our connected trails category. In this next category, we have accessible and safe improvements. So these are things we wanted to specifically call out. We have a number of sites where we would make improvements. And those are at the Cedar Hills Recreation Center, LC Stir Center, Camp Rivendell, and the administration building. And so what these projects include are both outdoor access improvements, where we're really focused on making the best experience getting from a parking lot to a building. And then we also have not yet identified in locations, but park access ADA packages. And those are areas where we might want to make a better connection from a sidewalk or a walkway or a trail to an amenity within a space. And those could be playgrounds, sports courts, they could be a picnic area, or it could even be adding some additional pavement where if people are using a walkway to access a space to view sports at a sports field, we might want to put in a little landing space so that folks can leave the trail or the paved surface so it's still accessible to other folks going by. So as I mentioned, some of those projects are at different centers and some are to be determined where we would do those based on the need. And then there's also a couple of other projects within this category that would allow us to place generators at a number of our facilities that we can use as cooling centers and heat relief centers and warming centers. And so having those generators would allow us to leave the power on. We could provide charging spaces. We didn't have that ability to do that everywhere during the January 2024 winter storm. So generators would be a great addition to help make those spaces more welcoming. And then we also have a security and safety package, which is adding cameras, unifying our key access to different spaces, and making improvements to increase safety. In our environmental stewardship category, there's a number of projects, some that are new, and for example, that would be the addition of solar panels in a few locations. And then we have a number of sustainability projects. And on this next slide, we'll try again, here we go. In these categories, what we're looking at are a couple of different things. The natural area health package would be improvements made across the district, and these are efforts to improve climate resiliency. It would also be looking at areas that have been affected by the emerald ash borer, where we could do replantings. And we have areas classified as high, medium, and lower functioning sites. So this category would address projects where we remove weeds and we keep high functioning sites high functioning, and maybe even move the needle up on some of our other sites. As I mentioned, the solar projects could be new and help us with energy costs. We also have the natural area wildfire reduction projects, and those would be work to improve our wildfire resiliency, primarily in urban forest areas, places like Jordan Woods or Lawami Heartwoods, but it could also be some place like Cooper Mountain and the prairie land that we have there. In our climate adapted tree program, this is really looking at what tree species are failing now and what we need to think about as temperatures rise, as conditions shift, as things might get more wet or more dry. And those climate adaptive tree programs can happen both in our natural areas, but also in our more developed sites. And our sustainability projects are primarily within buildings, and those would be things like swapping out lighting systems and finding ways to build in more efficient systems within our buildings. And speaking of buildings, in the building and facilities category, we did take some proposed projects to that last conversation with our bond task force. And a number of these are pool related. So we got a sense that folks felt like they were, I can't vote for all of these. How am I going to choose? And so we're excited to have a conversation with that task force next week to pull out some more information about this. But what was offered up as possibilities to these folks were a reimagining of the Harmon Swim Center and the Beaverton Swim Center. Beaverton, of course, our oldest swim center, former headquarters of the Park District. And so there's an opportunity to modernize both of those facilities and potentially look to our vision action plan for different ways that people want to play within our spaces. So we could potentially offer up new amenities within those spaces. We also talked about a pretty significant roof project that we have on our list of things to do at the athletic center. And we'd also hopefully be able to make some improvements for the flooring and water intrusion, fix that so that we can protect our investment, and then potentially also make some restroom shower opportunities that are gender neutral. And something that we're really excited about is the potential for the transformation of what is currently our admin building, where we've got offices and some meeting rooms, to maybe turn that into something that we can hand back to the community. And that could include meeting rooms, it could include workout spaces, it could include classrooms for the community to access. So that would take some doing. It's not exactly set up for that kind of activity now, but this is potentially something that could be funded through bond dollars. The Tualatin Hills Aquatic Center, we've made investments. You heard earlier tonight what an incredible amenity that is for our community, but there are things that we can do to make that building even better and make the investment so that it can be used in the way that community members are asking for it to be used. And then something that wasn't on our top 5 for this category going into that meeting with the task force last month was our nature center improvements. And this is a space that is unique in that it's not that you have a building where everything's taking place in the building. The caretakers at the nature center really need a lot of support to be able to go out into the park and take care of that. And right now, that is not the best solution and the best space for all of those activities, supplies, and materials to be stored. So we would want to make some improvements to that space. And that got a lot of attention and interest from the task force. So we want to explore that a little bit more with them at our next meeting. And then the final category is the recreation parks and community spaces. And this is where we really see the opportunity to lean into what we learned from our community members through the visioning effort. There are definitely some elements of taking care of what we've got. So you'll see right in the center of the map, we've got playground package, which is 30 different playground replacements over the district. So we're at 119, I think, park sites right now. A huge number of those, more than a third, are kind of at the end of life. And we're able to keep a lot of things going. We can repair and replace, but at a certain point, there may not be parts made for a 30-year-old play equipment structure. And so we do need to make some investments in swapping those materials out. There are also things in this category, and I'll go to the next slide here, in addition to the playground package, where we've termed it resilient park improvements. I think we talked to you previously about shade, and shade is not just for the sun, it's for the rain. So it's just making our parks more accessible. And so some of the funding we have in this category would be to do things similar to what you see at school sites, where you've got a big freestanding structure that might cover an area for play, but it could also mean more like the shade sail solutions that we recently put in up at Abbey Creek Park. So we've got funding in for both of those, and those would be spread out across the district. We're also looking at opportunities to redevelop some athletic facilities. And what we're looking at here are things like replacing lighting and going to an LED system so that we can save the costs on energy there, but also the potential for converting some of our grass field into synthetic field. And so we're looking now and pulling together more information for discussion with the task force about how much less in maintenance might you have for that change, and how much more you might be able to get in revenue because you're not closing down those fields to rest. So we're working on gathering that information. We've also taken a look at what it could mean to do some park redevelopments. We hear a lot in park maintenance about Commonwealth Lake. It's a well-loved and beautiful space, and it gets wetter and wetter every year. It is a floodplain. We used to have a field that we could program pretty regularly. It's far too wet for that now. We have times of year that the porta potty near the play equipment is completely surrounded with water. So we need to make some thoughtful decisions about that. And just replacing play equipment in that location is not going to best serve us down the road. So there's some redevelopment thoughts that we really need to put into these well-loved spaces. And then the final category is one you've heard us talk about before, and it's that destination park concept, where we can create a really exciting space. And our thinking on this is evolving. And so there's areas that we know we're going to have a new community park. One example is our northeast quadrant, where we know one day we're going to develop a community park up there. Potentially that could be a destination park. But the destination park could also be one of these park redevelopments where we go in and put in this really cool amenity that draws in members of our community. So this is a pretty significant category out of the entire package, and I hope that it represents some of the things we've heard from you over time about what we could do out in the community. So that concludes kind of the update to where we are in the process. And I'll just share, there are a few things that we specifically are going back to the task force next week with. And it's kind of, are those categories right? Do we want to make any shifts between the categories? We want to talk with them a little bit more about what's new versus reimagined or really taking care of what we've got. And just figure out those category allotments. And so we'd expect that following that meeting, we'll return to you in December and share with you, the task force themselves, we will have members come share with you what they've learned, what they'd like you to consider. And as a warning, we are going to them with 3 questions. They may come with additional feedback about different things that we've discussed through our process. So we're excited to hear your thoughts and for them to share with you what they're thinking at next month's meeting. So.
Okay.
That's it.
Thank you, Aisha, and thank you for the moral support, Bruce. Comments down here. I'll look left, then I'll look right.
This this was very thorough. So thank you for putting in all the effort. Please thank the task force. We'll see them next month. But I really appreciate especially categorizing these and prioritizing some of the things, because when you talked about end of life equipment on playground, my head was like safety, like let's kind of make sure that that happens. There, I know there could be some opportunities to replace some parts, but I guess thinking through whether it's a replacement of the part or replacement of the whole thing, I guess those type of discussions I'm sure are happening with the task force. So really appreciate the thorough work, and I'm looking forward to the recommendations next month.
I'm looking right.
Okay, I still don't know this answer after all these years of whether synthetic field or a natural field is more like climate resilient, those kinds of things, as far as like I figured grass definitely takes more like water and energy to partake and mow and that kind of thing, but it's also heat absorbing versus synthetic is not. And then synthetic will then have all this garbage that we have at the end of the year or when the life is over. So I don't know if we know that answer now, or if there's a way that I know it's like apples and oranges and it's like very hard to like compare the two and there's pros and cons for both. But I would like to, as we, if I think we're moving more towards synthetic just because of the availability of use and stuff, but I also want to feel really good about that, if that makes sense.
Yes, and I will share that this is something that every community is really struggling with, and it's a different answer in these different communities too, because we have weather conditions that are very different from somewhere else. We've had conversation about the fill that's used in synthetic turf, and we've made choices as an agency about what we're going to do. There's other agencies that have chosen to do something like cork. In Oregon, that's not going to work real well because
Yeah.
the cork floats and just shifts. So these are things that we're taking into account and trying to determine based on our world what might work best. A number of us were able to attend the Oregon Recreation and Park Association conference last month, and there was a session that was the triple bottom line of synthetic versus natural turf fields. And honestly, those are probably the furthest along in the state, and they're still struggling to exactly identify that. So we're doing the best that we can, and we're trying to make that information available to this task force, who can then give you some guidance and thoughts on what that might look like. But that is a real concern, and we're not certain, but we're trying to share, can you program the field year round versus having to take it out of play and out of programming for a period of months at a time.
Yeah.
But yes, there's water costs, there's the labor cost to maintain, there's fertilization. So there's many, many different factors that we're trying to take a look at to answer that question.
So there is no answer is what you're saying.
Not tonight. Maybe soon.
If I could add too, I mean, you would get an answer depending on the group you had in front of you.
Okay.
If it were a whole bunch of young people saying, what would they like to play on? Both the parents and the youth would say they love synthetic.
Yeah.
And at times, though, they do empty out the additional implement that they bring home in their shoes. But on the environmental side, you get other arguments because there is a significant amount of byproduct at the end of life. It's a tough one for sure.
That as a soccer mom, my son would always prefer to play on turf, especially if it is raining. It's really hard for them to run on grass, and they don't make progress. But I hear you. Like personally, I've debated that question for so long, and I know there is no right or wrong answer, even from a cost standpoint. Answer is not there. I'm almost wondering, would it be more of a use case basis, depending upon where the location that you're putting in us, maybe that could be guiding that, because some areas, I mean, maybe did put grass versus other turf just for something.
Miles, Barbie, you need- Comment on this.
Wait, I have one more
Oh,
thing.
sorry, Tia, I didn't.
No, it's okay. I just want to advocate for our own troll whenever we have a community park. So, yeah, well, like the monkey park, which I still don't even know what its name is, but everybody calls it monkey park. I want a monkey park. So,
It's memorable. It's in Hillsborough.
It's in
And then the trolls in at the
what
north
is the
side.
name? Anybody know the name?
Yeah.
I'm sure you guys know the name. See? But everybody knows when I say when
I
say
know the
monkey
troll's name. The troll's name is Old Bowl.
park.
I do know that one, but I cannot recall. He does have a name, the monkey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the park has a name, but as soon as I say monkey park, everybody knows what I'm talking about. Well, mine is proud now because their kids are too old. But
Destination.
yeah.
Good.
Appreciation. Just want to offer, so Aisha and Bruce, I know that I'm a person I am a processor, and I think y'all know by now. Sometimes we see these big buckets and then we're asked to make decisions and I go, but I'm not in it every day in the way that you're in it every day. And I've asked to say, could you give me examples? What tangibly are we talking about? The way that you walked me through this really makes it clear the need. And I think this is not done flippantly. Obviously, there is design, and I know that there are very smart people working over here. But when we say storytelling, you just crafted the story for us. So it's coming to fruition in a way that feels much more tangible and understandable, and giving me greater confidence. And I am very much looking forward to hearing from the task force and their perspective. So thank you for the work.
Yeah, a few quick things. Shade structures, love them. I think the sales have been really cool to see on our parks. Solar panels, I have a question that I don't know if we would have the answer for right now, but that would be how much percentage, what are we thinking about like savings long term? And would this be something that we would at a point maybe like work with public utility to see if it could get put back into the system for the community at large?
Yes, I'm not sure if Bruce wants to speak to that, but those are definitely considerations. He and another member of our staff, Keith Watson, have been in contact. They're leading kind of our strategic energy management efforts. And so that is definitely a thought that we're having. And it looks like he's unmuted and he's joining us. So let's see what he has to add.
I figure I'm here, I'll do my best. But a solar panel pays back after about 15 years, and then it lasts at least 20, maybe 30 years. And when we're not using that energy, it can be put right back into the grid. And so we'd get credited for that.
It's fair to say solar is tough. The trick, of course, is incentives. And there still are incentives out there. So that's the package you try to create, is minimize your capital upfront costs, because it takes a long time to get the gain back.
Thank you, Bruce. And yeah, the last thing is just kind of like echoing, I think a little bit of what Barbie was saying about this conversation around the bond itself and the need. I think it's just always really important for us to recognize that this bond would not be an increase of the current bond. I think it's a reminder that this is a continuation of the work that we're doing. We're not trying to put more money than what is already coming in, as we continue to serve the community as best as possible and meet the needs of our growing community. So just echoing the gratitude and intentionality behind this work from the district.
Okay. Kudos to Bruce. That was his Michael Jordan flu game coming on to just answer the question about. You can look that one up, Miles, on YouTube. Coming on to answer the solar question. Awesome to see the playground package being considered. I would just put the nugget, maybe it's already there. I know we lost some things during the ice storms that are still kind of empty. Would love to see those somehow near the top of the list if possible, but we'll ways to go before we get there. You mentioned, Aisha, just about kind of some the ability with some additional athletic facility fields and things, more programming. Is there anything, and I thought you mentioned something about like opportunity maybe to host more things that might add a little revenue component. Is there anything specifically is it just kind of like rising tide lifts all shit? Is there any special place that might be built to host something bigger?
Yes, I should be clear, we're not talking about new.
Right.
So this is very much focusing in on areas we've already made significant investments. So the HMT complex would be one area, and the other that we're looking at is Sunset Park. Sunset Park has the 4 ball fields that in certain times of year, they're not usable because it gets a little too rainy. And so you'll see a lot more game cancellations. And so that's an area that we think, because that's so keyed to youth players, that could be a great investment in turning to synthetic so that we could avoid a lot of those rainouts. We also think that it's not maybe our best play to do a full synthetic replacement at all of these sites. But what we could do is focus on the areas that get the most wear during an event like this. So it's more converting of the infields in these spaces. So we'd still have we'd limit the amount of synthetic turf we'd be putting in, but it's in those areas that the most running, playing activity takes place. And so we could reduce our maintenance costs also because your lines are permanently in that carpet versus having to go out and line between games. So that addresses community feedback that we've gotten a lot about, which is an ask, a demand for lining between games that we might not be able to support based on staffing, but they'd be there and we'd be able to offer that to the community members using those spaces.
Yeah, the further complement is you make improvements where you're already invested.
Yeah.
Lights, restrooms. It's just just extend play because you don't have to add parking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great. And I think, minimizing rainouts and all that stuff, giving kids more opportunities to play is great. I still always hold some curiosity about when a place like Alpen Rose Dairy closes their, little league stadium, like what, where does that programming go? Is there a chance to ever bring that back to Oregon? And but obviously that's not like the gem of this package, but I just hold that curiosity. The only other thing I was going to ask is just water play features in any of these parks. Any of that come up at any point, or is that not being considered at this time? Or
We're definitely thinking about that in terms of like a park redevelopment or a destination park.
Okay.
Those would be considered. And then what the Vision Action Plan said was providing people with more place to have water play. So that could also be within an aquatic center where right now it might just be an L-shaped or a rectangle pool, and we could maybe offer up some additional amenities like where we have at Conestoga, the additional leisure pool. Maybe we can work in some of those different amenities into a remodel of those spaces. So we're looking at it inside and outside.
Great. Thank you very much. Okay.
Sure.
I think that's everything for that subject. Now we'll bring up Holly, Lulu, and Mark, I believe.
This one's dead. Oh, yours is dead. Okay, sorry. Okay, before we start on this topic, I'm going to cheat and I want to go back to Bon for just 1 second, just to close the loop on next steps. So the task force will be here in December with their recommendation, and we are now eyeing January for the board referral. So that is a little different than what we had laid out. It's the exact same timeline that we were on for the 24 levy. We wanted to have the task force come in December. They're going to present and be prepared to give their recommendation, and then we see your referral happening in January. Okay, so just closing the loop there.
Thank you.
Okay, this is a heavy topic, and I'm really glad that we're having it. I do want to say a few things and set some context, and I really hope you hear my message as a yes and. So I know that there is a lot of passion and a lot of interest and a lot of idea generation around what more can we be doing right now. And your staff, we're here, we're game, we're ready to listen. We want to hear your ideas. We're taking notes. But I asked Lulu and Mark to prepare a presentation for you tonight, and I want to kind of go over the 3 categories that we're going to be talking about and why. The first category we're going to talk about, or the 3 areas we're going to talk about, are what has been our advice and guidance to staff if ICE shows up at our events or on our property? What does that look like? So what is our response? What are we doing? What does our support for staff look like? What is our protocol? What is our training? So they're going to talk about that. Then we're going to also talk about what are we focused on right now? And I will tell you, my energy, just being, the manager over this work, is our work has to change. The environment around us is changing the way that people feel safe interacting with us. And so while I'm game to hear what more we can be doing, I just need you to understand and have a little bit of context that we're also having to spend time thinking about what have we done the last several months that now has to look completely different because the world feels so different and people feel so unsafe and they need different things to be able to participate. So wearing my manager hat, that's a little bit of the balancing act I'm doing in my mind. And I just wanted Lulu and Mark to expose you to examples and how we're thinking. Before we take on more, we got to think about how are people interacting and programming today, and how's that going to look different? How do we run Centro in a completely different way? What is a safety watch element to events and programming? We didn't even have that term safety watch, right? We didn't even have that context of we've got to think about how do people enter these spaces and exit these spaces in a safe way in case things happen. So just keep that context in mind. It isn't that we're like, we can't do more. We're not on muscle memory here, people. We're trying to figure out how to do something different every day now. And then the third category we wanted to talk about is ground truthing. Lord knows, I don't know. I think she's a clone. I think there's really 5 Lulus, and I don't know how Lulu does everything she does. But, we've all got ideas and energy, right? But we're listening really well right now. We're listening to community-based partners, we're listening to community-based organizations, and we're trying to understand what their asks of us are right now and what our roles should be. We don't want to jump to, we want to listen, and we want to be there and show up and partner in the way that people are asking us to engage. So that's kind of our philosophy right now. What do we have to do different? How do we train our staff differently with everything that's going on? And then from what we're hearing from the community, how do we be the best partner and be as responsive as we can be right now, okay? And so if you have ideas that are outside of what you're hearing, we are writing those down and we are listening, but we're not committing right now because we got to think about how do we take care of what we're already doing and do that well, and then think about what can we add to that plate. So I want you to feel yes and, not a no, a yes and. Okay, with that, take it away, please.
And good evening. Thank you for bringing this topic to this meeting. I want to say for staff, for volunteers, for community and partners, what you shared before is very important, very meaningful, very powerful. I say it as an individual, but I do know that it's coming also an important topic for community. So this update, as Holly was sharing, was developed in response to the current climate, heightened activities that we've seen lately. It's work that we started with some things in January, then February, but then in the last 3 weeks to a month, there's been more and there's more to come, as Holly was sharing. We're ready with our notes. We don't want to forget anything, and our pens to take note. We do want to clarify, while the focus today is immigrant and refugee communities, of course, we want to recognize the overlapping impacts to all communities, including LGBTQAI, people of color, people with disabilities, and many marginalized and oppressed communities that we work with. Today is about how we as a district were responding and how we're showing up to those most affected and how we can continue and improve the work that we're already doing. As Holly shared, our main purpose is current guidance. What do we do if ICE shows up at our facilities? What are we focusing on right now? And what are we hearing back from community and what are we doing with that information? You already set the table with powerful information. And in addition to that, or following that, as we know, and for everybody in the recording, we follow Oregon law, sanctuary state. We are a welcoming and inclusive district. We serve all independent on immigration status. All of these are the obvious points, but it's setting the table for everyone. Our focus will always be, we do not collaborate, of course, with or enforce immigration activity. Our focus is on providing always welcoming and safe as possible public spaces and programs. The physical and emotional safety of staff, volunteers, and partners will always be top priority. With this, we wanted to start by sharing some of the staff resources that we developed. And when we say staff resources, it means things that they can go ahead and share with community as well. Let me start by sharing about the website. On the Equity website, you will find information in English and Spanish. And in addition to that information on the website itself, there's a one-pager document also in English and Spanish that staff can print out, or community, since it's on the website, and utilize. What information do we find there? Adelante Mujeres, Centro Cultural, all of the partners that have the latest information and the most adequate information so that families can go there. It's one of the things that partners have shared with us. Make sure that you're sending families our way. We will have the latest. In addition to these printouts, we have those QR codes posters where we have for all facilities when we're out and about during community engagement at events, families can go catch that QR code and they will be sent to that webpage. It's been kept brief once you go in and check it out. And the thing that will be continuing to expand is the one pager becomes a 2-pager, 3-pager. That's where you will find the additional information. Also, the red cards, it's something that has been distributed also district-wide. We have them in English and Spanish, Pashto, Dari, in Arabic upon request, and all languages are available. So as staff need them, we already had one additional request. We will have them available for them. Also, this information will continue to evolve. Things are happening very rapidly, and any changes and additions will always be according to what partners are recommending. Also, staff resources, this might be the obvious, but we had a staff training just last week. We were sharing all these resources, all this information. We took in questions. This is one staff training. There should be more. There's also staff communication channels that exist. Of course, you go to your supervisor when in doubt, but also we have a DIA liaisons group. As a reminder, this group is all center supervisors, managers, or people supporting staff or themselves who are leading equity and belonging work. So that's a good channel of communication. We also have equity and engagement team has open office hours every Friday. HR has also open office hours. And of course, we invited everyone to reach out to safety services, communications, equity and engagement as needed. There's also work underway in how do we best support our existing affinity groups. We have immigrant and refugee affinity group, Somos THPRD that we shared with you all, I think in the last meeting, and LGBTQI+. And of course, those are employee-led, so we need to see and ask how it's best for us to show up and support. We also have important work done by Julie with Hispanic professionals in Parks and Rec. Also, ORPA has a PRISM affinity group. So all of these are channels that are supporting staff. Also, there's resources that we will be adding to the employee newsletter because same as community, staff need that additional support and information to share back with community as well. There's specific materials that we're developing, and we just have two more notes to add there, and it will continue to grow. In the case of supervisors, programmers, people leading events, there's very specific information on what to think about, how to best prepare. One thing that we highlighted with staff is that always let safety services know of your program if you think that you're going to be tending to a specific community, immigrant, refugee that might be targeted, that your event is just very attractive, unfortunately, for certain people. They need to let safety services know. Also, another important consideration is that we want to let staff know, and at this point, they know there's going to be a lot of changes and pivoting, meaning promotion might look very differently. For example, now for a lot of the programs that we're doing, partners can support us in sharing through WhatsApp or other applications that we don't have access to, but they do, and it's a safer way to share. If we want to use, let's say, Centro Bienvenida, typically we would see plastered all over the place, send out in all newsletters and social media. Now we're doing it very differently through the channels that we have existing with patrons that attend Centro and one-on-one flyers that staff are handing out to families and communities. That's one of the many changes coming to Centro. Community connections and partners, we don't want to take a long time here, but just the obvious that we, and when I say we, it's THPRD staff all over the district. We go to these ongoing partner meetings. Sometimes there's valuable information there. Of course, the topic right now, it's this. There's the refugee support quarterly meetings. Those are Multnomah, Clackamas, and Washington County. Primarily, it's nonprofit organizations and governments supporting refugee communities. Community Services Network is a very important nonprofit. They were very busy in Multnomah, and they just transitioned to serving Washington County as well. The photo you see there, the main topic was immigration, and it was the first in-person gathering. And THPRD was part of the organizing committee. Regional engagers, partner in school meetings. Of course, this include going to Café Compadres, or it would be migrant education program, Maquinivento, and so on. Oh, yes. Very importantly, we wanted to share with you all that recently we had an Immigration Knowledge Academy with Adelante Mujeres. It was a 7-week program. We had the graduation around a month ago, a very meaningful activity. THPRD provided the space for childcare. We also provided food so people could get off work and immediately go to their training. It was held in Spanish. We also know that there's a regional rapid response coordination, primarily led in Washington County by Centro Cultural and Adelante Mujeres, Latino Network in Multnomah County. So we're always asking partners, how can we best support and how can we show up? What do they need? For example, after Adelante Mujeres, we had that in-person academy. It was like, what's next? What are we doing in person? Do you also want dinner? And at this moment, actually tomorrow and then over the weekend, I think they have other trainings. They're virtual because of safety reasons, unfortunately. So it's really pivoting and changing. And as we get excited, we get to see what they need and how they need it. Rapid Response Team, just as a side note, is part of the Oregon for All Coalition, who are working really hard around the state. Trainings and partner engagement. Staff all over the district have the opportunity to go to different trainings to gather information and continue to provide for community. Building that website, building those one-pagers. Just a couple of weeks ago, staff went to a Colaborativa de Solidaridad Inmigrante by PIRC, Portland Immigrant and Refugee Coalition, and the Mexican Consulate were there. And other partner organizations. There's also many virtual trainings that are increasing. The Know Your Rights ones, of course, they're going to continue, but based on partners, it's a lot to do, unfortunately, about family preparedness, about basic knowledge for detention and mutual support. So it's really having those really hard conversations as well with community. There's Migra Watch trainings tonight on Saturday in person. So a lot of our partners, volunteers are collaborating and participating in these efforts, and staff also get to go learn and then share back. For community connections and the partner feedback that we were talking with Holly. So as shared, ongoing partner communication is ongoing. We want to hear from you all because you're very well connected. As you hear a partner on opportunity, something they need in a specific way, we would love to hear about that so we can activate and support in the way the community needs. It could be use of space. It has been a lot of requests for information shared. Just today, we just got a quick email. Can you share this on your social media in Espanol? We did that. Do you want it also in the newsletter? Here we go. So it's a lot of that type of work. A lot of the staff time, at least with my team and actually many teams, has been related to having conversations with community and how do you want us to show up. And with that, I want to invite Julie to share more about the fourth point on planning.
Good evening. I just want to share a little bit of what we're hearing within our sports community. This fall, we've seen our partner, Oregon Youth Soccer Association, cancel games due to ice raids near Delta Park. Although this wasn't in Washington County or on our fields, it does impact our affiliates who are scheduled to play on those fields and against those teams. And I just want to share a little bit of what OISA has sent out to folks as they recognize that this issue touches on political charged and deeply emotional topics. People will have different views about immigration and enforcement action, and that's understandable. But every child deserves to play soccer without fear, and OISA is committed to supporting all member clubs and families as they navigate this difficult time together. Well, we must comply with Oregon state and federal law. They're doing their best within their power to provide reassurance, flexibility, compassion to those affected. Their priority remains the safety, dignity, and inclusion of every young player and their family. And as THPRD enters our busiest indoor sports season, we are cautiously aware that we may need to make adjustments to our games and our programs. Large schedule events can become targeted. And so as those concerns are raised, we're ready with a plan to pivot as necessary. At this time, we're not going to share those plans, but we are making sure that they're in place in the event that we need to make changes to our Winter Basketball League coming up here in a few months.
And then I skipped one of the most important points here is community health and wellness. So a lot of the culturally specific groups or just partners and nonprofits that we work with that we've been canceling events or moving the date to next year. Let's see how things are going. There's a lot of interest in community health and wellness. And what that means is, for example, we had a partner that was going to do an in-person, but instead of doing that, they moved to virtual and providing spaces where they can go within THPRD that are safer and that families can go on their own. That's one example. But also, for example, we have African Women's Coalition. They want to come together at THPRD spaces for monthly meetings. And these won't be posted on our website or on social media. It's just a way that women are going to be gathering at our spaces. So we're going to see more and more increase on this health and wellness piece because while we need to kind of like Maslow pyramid, we need to first think of the basics, but the also key component because this is extraordinary times and it's going to be months and years. So people want to be prepared as well from the health side of things. And another key point, in case you're thinking about this, that we've talked to partners about is additional languages. All these resources that we've been talking about, how can we add those additional languages? Also, something that we've heard from partners is to be very careful to not provide a false sense of safety. We can put up a very welcoming sign in our centers, but be very careful and not provide that false sense of safety. I thought that was important. I've been into businesses and there's wonderful posters. And then I think, oh, wow, it's true. It could be like that. And with that, I'll pass it on to Mark.
Thank you, Lulu. And Holly alluded to this, so I just want to preface my comments with the fact that we have added some safety watch type components to our events operational plans. But in keeping with past practice, we generally do not discuss specific security plans and specific tactics that we would use in public forums. So I won't be sharing those types of details with you as we go through this. It is important to understand that simply being in the country undocumented is a civil law violation. And it is not a criminal law violation. So if the only violation that ICE has is a civil violation of federal immigration laws or the related civil detainers, which are like warrants in the civil system, police officers will not detain or assist in detaining anyone. And that's where obviously where our sanctuary laws are rooted. But on the other hand, officers that have reasonable suspicion that an individual is already lawfully contacted and detained based on criminal behavior, then most local law enforcement is going to assist with criminal law violations. So that context is important because that's rooted in local law enforcement policies, but to understand that there is a huge difference. And apparently many people don't understand that. So hopefully those watching understand now. Give you an idea of where the local law enforcement leaders are with this topic. Earlier this year, the Washington County Law Enforcement Council, which includes all the police chiefs, the sheriff, the district attorney, all signed a resolution, and I'll read just a part of it to you. Under Oregon law, including Oregon's longstanding sanctuary law, local law enforcement agencies enforce local laws while federal law enforcement agencies enforce federal laws, including those related to immigration. That framework provides clarity and balance regarding our respective roles. So they wanted to make a clear distinction in what their role is with this. And in addition to that, a few years ago in 2022, the Oregon Department of Justice began providing a mechanism to report requests for cooperation by local governments from ICE. And so in that little over 3 years since that tracking began, and we as a local agency are required to report any of those incidents as well, there have been no inquiries made to park and recreation agencies or park and recreation departments anywhere in the state. And the bulk of those requests go to police departments, sheriff's departments, jails, and district attorney's office. So we've had no requests for cooperation in park and rec agencies statewide. So all of those things really make it unlikely that THPRD staff would be asked for any information or cooperation from federal immigration authorities. However, if staff are approached by federal authorities regarding anything related to immigration, they have been instructed to defer the question to the person in charge at their site as a first step. So person in charge at the site, and that person in charge would then notify their manager or their supervisor. And we encourage staff to not proactively engage in any conversations or actions with federal immigration authorities. We want that kicked up to a supervisor, manager, a director immediately. That manager or director would then notify the safety services manager, and then I would go to the location where the federal authorities are and have a conversation with them on what they need from us or what their business is. And then based on that conversation, we would either refuse to cooperate, or if it's a criminal matter, we would notify local law enforcement. I would then comply as well with the DOJ reporting directive, as well as notifying THPRD's administrative group. The main takeaway there is we don't want employees engaging. We want to defer the request up the chain, and we want to let safety services handle the contact. So there is consistency with those contacts. They're talking to the same person every time. From a legal perspective, the district's attorneys have provided the following guidance to us. Since THPRD is a public agency, federal immigration enforcement agents may enter areas that are open to members of the general public without a warrant. So public areas, in other words, and that could be public lobbies, public hallways, parking lots, parks, trails, all of those things. If they're open to the public, they are open to ICE being in that space. To the extent public access is restricted in certain areas, so areas where
Hold on, sir. A lot of heroes tonight. A lot of heroes tonight.
and we're back.
Okay, go ahead, Mark. Sorry about that. Oh, wait.
Okay, so based on those things that I just said, so there's been a lot made of other jurisdictions doing things like these ice-free zones. And Lulu alluded to this as well. Those zones can only be in non-public restricted access areas. We do not recommend this as possible because we don't believe it's possible to guarantee that it's an ice-free zone if it's a public space. And we don't want to send that false sense of safety and security to our patrons or to our staff. Should not do if they witness immigration-related situations on district property. So some things that we don't want them to do is we don't want them to actively interfere with or disrupt any detentions. That is a felony federal crime, and we don't want to put our staff in that position. We don't want them to ask for documents or take copies or photos of documents from ICE officers. We don't want them related to interfering or disrupting. We don't want them making any physical contact with immigration officials. Remember, the idea here is for staff to stay safe and not escalate the encounter. What we do want staff to do is we want them to be a good witness, and we want them to report any encounters immediately to their supervisor. We do want them, if they decide to video the incident, to do it from a distance so that there can be no misconstruing whether they're interrupting or interfering with anything. And then we want them to follow the guidelines and the resources that we've talked about here. Last week, some training was done with all staff in a Teams call. And we covered all the things that we talked about here. And then next week, myself and Angel will be doing follow-up, very detailed in-person training with safety services personnel on this topic. And so to kind of wrap it up, there for our direction to our staff, we want them to remember 3 key things. Don't directly engage. Go tell your supervisor, and they will kick it up the chain until it gets to us. We want them to immediately report the situation to the person in charge and then let safety services handle the contact so that there would be consistency with all those contacts. And with that, I'll turn it back to Lulu.
What do we have upcoming? We have more trainings for partners and the spaces that we want to share with community in the best way for them. We know of the Washington County Rapid Response, and more might come out of that. We want to also learn what staff support looks like, and of course, continue with community and partner support, depending also on their shares. Also, in the more to come, there's connecting the dots that you all might have at hand. We're ready to take notes. More changes and more resources that we could have available for community and staff, FAQs, things like that. Continue to talk to partners. We have a meeting with the DIA liaisons in December, and this is going to be the main topic. THPRD staff are part of ORPA's DI committee. That's a topic that they also will touch on this month. So there's more resources and information coming our way, and also what is working for other park districts in similar jurisdictions as ours. Also, the team alluded a little bit about what Safe Watch could look like. And while we won't be able to share in a public space like this, there's more to share with you all on what that is, what Centro looks like, and so on. As we wrap up, we just want to say thank you for being part of this space. It is a really tough conversation. As an individual, there's all these things that I'm doing as a community member, and then there are all these other things that I'm doing as a staff member. On both sides, there's so much more to do. We know that these topics can be heavy and they touch us all in very different ways. So just a big thank you, and we're ready to take notes and questions.
Thank you, Holly. Okay. Open it up to those who wish to weigh in.
Thank you all for everything that you've shared with us tonight. I really appreciate the grounding in some of the legal realities that we have to deal with in this situation regarding the reality that we can only do so much in terms of providing safe spaces for our community, where the supremacy of the federal level comes into play, and how difficult that is for us to stand against in legal sound ways that are protecting of our community and of the staff that make up part of our community and the service that we give to them. One of the questions that I have here is relating to communication with our other local jurisdictions, both at the staff level and elected level. I've had conversations with Beaverton City Council members about some of the hope and work that they are looking at doing, and the conversations that they're hoping to bring in their next city council meeting this following week. And I'm interested in what might be happening in conversations with the county and the city in other spaces that we overlap with from the staff level.
So at this moment, when we speak of partners, we're including jurisdictions. It could be City of Hillsborough, who are the main leads for the Regional Engagers Group, but it also includes nonprofit organizations. It also includes talking to ORPA members and seeing what is working for them. It is very interesting how each park and rec is at such different, not only the space that they're at, but the level of influence that they have on what they can do. There's even things in certain city governments where staff have been leading a lot of work and fighting against this. However, they've been asked to not utilize DI in their emails. And there's people there that are part of our committee. So we have to use other code words. So it's very interesting to see how each jurisdiction or city is working differently, but still pushing the work forward, if that makes sense. This week, we meet with other jurisdictions through the ORPADI committee, and that's one of the main topics because we haven't touched base as a committee since I think it's been 3 months where we all just kept sharing individually. So we thought we need to come together and provide guidance for all of Oregon, even if each jurisdiction area look differently. What has worked for you, Beaverton, when this was happening to you? And I'm Lincoln City or I'm Medford. What will work for me? So it's ongoing conversations, and that's part of the partners that we speak of.
Okay. Others? Yeah.
So I appreciate the what is it? The lens of and the point of not creating a false sense of security in our places because we are a public facility. What I'm wondering more is, can we create an unwelcoming space for ICE, such as posting all of everybody's rights, not just these little hand up flyers, but like posting poster boards or things like, if ICE know your rights, like if I show up like that, if they show up at a baseball game at Sunset Field and somebody sees ICE there, they know to look for these signs that says like record, call perk, like all these steps for someone who is, even if somebody is not readily aware of what's going on, but now they're wondering like, well, what do? I do want to help, but I haven't been paying attention. Then it's just very easy for people to say that, to see this, or even have whatever handouts that we can just pull and give possibly to that person. And so that they know, like, don't sign anything. These are your rights, those kinds of things that they can just like hold up and keep with them, hopefully. But yeah, so I'm not sure if how much signage like that would cost, but if we could just make ourselves unwelcoming by letting everybody know their rights, I think that possibly would be helpful.
I'm smiling a little bit because it's part of the conversation we were having specifically for Centro and any other culturally specific gathering. How can we make it difficult while we're not putting staff in the way? What type of signage can we add? What type of information? Just so if you show up, wow, this is a very complicated area, I'd rather go elsewhere.
Yeah,
Type of situation.
or
So
everybody knows what they're supposed to do at the time, so it makes it very uncomfortable because everyone's recording, everyone's, I don't know, with using a whistle or everyone, those kinds of things that that as soon as they step on our property, they already know that everyone is aware that you may be here, but everyone is also aware of what our rights are, and we are a sanctuary state, so.
And then the other thing that we didn't share is how we're creating signage explaining who safety services is. And although they're going to be wearing different clothing on top, just letting people become familiar, because at this moment, I've had moments where I just see a uniform and you jump. So there's many key pieces that we've been brainstorming about. That is one. How do we make it so complicated? So.
Thank you. Appreciate the overview, appreciate the work. I think I do just want to share, I know that I sometimes I wear my heart on my sleeve, and I come to this work from a place of being an activist and an organizer. And, I think it's an interesting time, and there's the narratives of, again, how to move as a politician. And I think y'all have heard me say about being a public servant, and I really do pride myself in serving the people. And so I just want to make sure that y'all hear and that I'm on the record that my pushing, that my passion comes with deep gratitude and deep respect, and truly just centered with a desire to really be able to do what we can. And you know, there's intention and impact, and especially with my peers. You know, I can intend to sound the alarm because I'm in spaces with people who have been personally impacted, and that frontline experience is incredibly traumatic. But the impact may be, wow, Barbie, you're on 12. And so I just want to acknowledge that the ideas that I have already shared with staff is not coming with a pointed finger to say, we must do more. And I really hope you hear the sincerity that what I'm asking us to do is to partner together and to think outside the box. And that's an expression that may seem trite, but I just continue to think you have an administration that is breaking the law, and yet we're expected to just continue to maintain and say, well, these are the guardrails in which we are in, which I think definitely does change the dynamic of how we have to problem solve. To hear that you're even having to email with code words. I mean, this is just unprecedented for any of us. And so ideas abound, but they come with an understanding that I recognize we can't just flip a switch, and we don't want to do so and create greater harm. That what we really are trying to do here is harm reduction, and that this is going to be sustained, unfortunately, for some period of time. And I do worry about burnout. I do worry about the mental load that this takes on our staff. It's wonderful that there's a turnout to have these trainings and whatnot, but you know, it is something that I would like us to make sure that we're looking internally as well, that our folks who may be connected in different ways, that we're there to support them and understand that there is a mental wellness component to this, and not everyone has signed up for this. You know, I was speaking with my peers. It's one thing to be in community and to want to do good and to go to a training and to say, okay, this is what I'm going to do. And then it's another thing to continue to do that for 6 months, and every single day, 5 new families are being destroyed in Washington County. So I just ask that we make sure that we're caring for the humans on our staff, as well as the humans who are our patrons, who come and want to recreate with us and to feel that sense of safety and belonging, and we heard it tonight. If there is anything that we can do as a board to be louder and upfront, especially myself, I recognize I sit on this board with a lot of privilege and a lot of protection, and I am not afraid to use that privilege and to be a voice where others may not have the sense of safety needed to be able to meet the moment. So if you need someone to help, you can count on me. And the conversations that have been had privately with many other electeds, I know we are not alone. I know that there are many folks in our community right now who sit with this same honor of serving folks who are trying to solve the exact same problem. And I'm just grateful that I get to do this work with folks who are willing to meet this moment, and with the staff who is not putting up barriers and telling us this is not what a park district should do, but we are truly having an opportunity to live our mission, vision, values. They become more than words on paper when you see it in action like this. And so thank you, and call on me.
Thank you. Roger, any words?
I guess no questions, but just comments. I saw some of this material in the joint committee meeting, and ever since, I mean, it has evolved so much. And like you called out, Lulu, in the beginning, every day something is changing. Every day there is new information, and I just want to appreciate the continuously transitioning phase that you all are in, pivoting every step of the way, every curve, right? You have to make a slightly different decision for our community members and our patrons, or change your strategies, which you probably have thought through already, and then, well, this is not working, let's go back and figure something else out. So I really appreciate it. Did not see early on in the joint committee meeting about the safety. So Mark, appreciate you coming in and talking about what that means for our community members, and also being very clear about making sure that our staffers know, our security personnel know what they can and cannot engage in, and make sure that they are safe while doing that as well. But also make sure that they support people who are impacted, whether it's through recording, whether it's through calling to their managers, making sure that that incident is known. So really appreciate that. I know it's tough time, and I appreciate Barbie kind of offering to help and giving ideas as well. I know, Barbie, you've been engaged in a lot of different trainings and have a lot of content to share. So I appreciate that, Barbie. I just want to make that call out that you've been working a lot with the staff, and we, as the rest of the board members, we are contributing what we can, but your contributions have been tremendous. So thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm really grateful for the folks we have here. Lulu, your experience in collaboration and work with community-based organizations and beyond, and the general public, it is fantastic. Mark, I'm super grateful for your expertise and your connections on the law enforcement side, and we need all the info and all the insights collectively to be able to, like I said earlier at the beginning of the meeting, navigate the unprecedented. So I'm really grateful for the knowledge and the clear communication. This is excellent to kind of review everything and just have it. I did have the question of just kind of this can be very ballpark. Do we have any ideas at this point what sort of hit reduction we're expecting out of Centro for the winter? Do we even have any idea?
True honesty, no idea.
Yeah.
However, as we can share one-on-one, those changes might be of help, because it will make it much safer, more direct contact, not let's gather and be here 30 minutes.
Right.
It's going to be very different. We have no idea. We were very fearful last Centro, and we had great attendance. But right now, the circumstances are so different.
Yeah.
So the changes that we're making were to avoid canceling and having that space opportunity open for families to sign up. However, we really don't know.
Yeah, I figured. Yep. Understood.
Just a quick add on, let's say success, everybody showed up, same as last year. We do have the capacity with this new strategy to serve all if it's going to be
Good.
that case. So
Okay.
fingers crossed.
There's immense value in holding the line too. So finally, I definitely was thinking about this kind of inside out approach in terms of our own people. And I know we have staff and, folks who are, this is a lot more of a very real thing. I mean, it's real for all of us, but a very, acute risk, so I'm appreciative for that work to kind of triage inside out. And I know you all are doing that. And finally, just to close this topic and move on to the next, I am really, I just think where we've kind of tried to collectively as a board, I've just seen that value of us all trying to move as a board body. And I think that pushing and pondering is a good one to kind of, I don't know, like one leg in front of the other. And I think that's the sign of a healthy, good board. So I'm appreciative for all these folks to my left and my right. So, okay, with that, we are running just a little bit behind schedule. I'd like to move us along to our final agenda item, the fiscal year 26-27 values and budget priorities. Thank you, Mark and Lulu, or you're saying Lulu. Okay, more Lulu.
Yes. She didn't know she was staying.
Oh,
What a
okay.
trooper she is. Julie and Lulu were instrumental in helping craft. So, Julie, I just want to phone a friend here and jump in. Well, so we grouped and went through the values and priorities after the retreat discussion. You have two versions in front of you, the red line that shows the changes we made, and then the clean version that is the accept all edits. I will just touch on the first one, the leading with equity with special attention to racial equity. There was a discussion around the retreat around wanting to add in context for people that are suffering economically right now. And so this is the edit that we made. You can see it on the red line. Thought we did okay. Okay. Aisha, I'm going to phone a friend with you on environmental stewardship.
Wait, can I say something
Oh,
about that
please.
first one? So I and the first time I read it, I was totally fine. So, and I don't know why it's like now coming out now because I didn't have any edits before, but I just wasn't sure if economically what we're discussing regarding economics is in the right place because um the equity that we're talking about is for everything that we've listed before. Yet all of a sudden we're talking that sentence THPRD recognizes that to achieve equity, we must prioritize investments for the people who are most economically impacted. But I feel like by putting that there, it takes away from everybody else's identity that is very impacted. Does that make sense? When we were talking about, I was trying to just put that economic as another identity in the definition above, and then that we achieve equity by prioritizing investments for those who are most impacted, not just economically.
So I hear what you're saying. I will explain our thought process, but it doesn't mean we're right. And so, you know, if it needs to go somewhere else, absolutely. I would call it an internal link that we are maybe not articulating, but that we see. And what we know is that race is, I mean, I guess at a federal level, we don't care about data anymore, but in Beaverton, we still do, right? At THPRD, we still do. And we know that race is a predominant predictor for disparate impact, right? And so that link is absolute. If we're leading with equity, with an emphasis on racial equity, then investments in people who are the most economically impacted have to go to people on a racial basis because the data tells you these are the most economically disadvantaged people, and that race, when you look at all things being equal, is the cause and the predictive outcome of how that happens, right? And so that is the thought process there. And that sentence is talking about making selections on investments. And we wanted to make that link to the point that you made, which is you're choosing to make this also to really uplift people who are being so terribly economically disadvantaged at this time. That was our thought process.
But I do. I just throw myself out there and then see what everybody else.
With that logic, Holly, then do we really need to call economically impacted? Because I thought it from data, if you're driving to racial equity, technically you are supporting people. I mean, I thought that's probably what Tia is getting into too. But and that's what I thought we discussed last time, but I don't think it's changing much here, so I'm okay. Just have it.
I guess I just feel like it takes away from all the other things that we're trying to recognize. And maybe that's just an internal thing for me because that is a very specific thing that we're talking about investing who are impacted when I'm trying to say like any kind of any identity that you have is of these groups, like we want to see you and we want to make sure you're welcomed and we're ready to invest in you, like, right, like people. Yeah.
I'll just jump in here if that's okay, Tia.
Yeah.
I understand where you're coming from with the intention and the link for it to be a continuation of the thought. How it feels like actually where I see where Tia's coming from. How it feels is like a superseding kind of thing of like listing these communities, these groups that we are intending to create equitable opportunities for within our spaces, and then saying to achieve all of that, we have to think about the most economically impacted. It doesn't feel like a umbrella. It feels like a secondary list, like another group that is superseding the others. I think that
Yeah.
what you're feeling?
Yes, thank you. See, eloquent.
Yes. However, I think that's what you've done by focusing the value on racial equity, right? Like when this started, we wanted to acknowledge that we care about all dimensions of equity and that we want to see work across the district and we value all. Like if we roll the clock back, like when not just this last conversation we had, but years ago when we created this, it was really important to the board to call out, we care about all dimensions of equity and we don't want someone who's LGBTQ plus to feel left out from a racial equity value that only spoke to racial equity. But at the same time, the board said, but we want special attention on racial equity because race is the most significant predominant factor in disparate outcomes for people. And so I hear you that it feels like, Holly, look, this feels like you're creating two lists, but I think that's kind of the structure of what we've done when we've said we care about all dimensions of equity and we're going to do equity work across the spectrum. And yet we want a little bit more focus on racial equity. I think it's set up to be that way. So that's what I'm struggling with what y'all are saying. I'm like, how do I balance that?
Yeah. So
Go ahead.
yes, and kind of thing. I hear what you're saying. And I think that that intention to have the focus be on racial equity is lost in the way that the sentence is phrased.
Okay.
I've lost it.
Okay.
So I think that's what Tia is saying. I don't know. But I understand what you're saying, and I
Yeah.
just don't think it's captured in this sentence.
So what would you like to do different?
Great question.
Yeah, oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
This is just my personal opinion. I think, and I have to go back and listen to the recording of what we discussed last time, but I think if, as you mentioned, it's included in the racial equity, I don't honestly see a need of recalling it out there.
Well, I feel like when we were talking about it before, we were just adding it as another identity. And I don't, right? Like, as like gender, race, sexual orientation, economic, I don't remember the word we specifically used, but like and others, something economic and then other identities.
Could you just put economically impacted, comma, and other identities?
Yes.
I feel comfortable with that. I think one of the things that I'm struggling with is that if we're talking about ratios and things like that, yes, of our BIPOC communities, there is a tendency for them to be more economically impacted by a lot of these things. If we're talking about actual numbers, the white community here in Oregon is, if we're talking about actual like just numbers of people, higher number of white folk are, even if the ratio is disproportionate to communities of color.
Okay,
Is that measure, is that something that you can even measure? Because you kind of said the data talks about like, race and the economic impact in consideration. I just want to make sure like if you put it in there, there is a way for you to go back like, oh, let me search up economically impacted, like,
Yeah,
where-
we've,
you know,
I feel good on that data. I can,
you can look it up. Okay.
yeah.
Just make
And
sure.
and I agree with that sentiment, Holly, definitely. I just feel like putting it there takes the focus away from when we could just put it as an economic impact, as an identity, rather than this whole sentence just all of a sudden pulls out economic only, when there's so many, like
Well,
if
you
we're
got me.
focusing on disability and all of those kinds of things, or like investing in like playground equipment for all of that kind of stuff, like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll let Barbie go and then I'll jump in so we can move this one along a little bit.
Curious if instead of using the word impact, if I read it this way and said THPRD values all dimensions of equity, including people experiencing disabilities, whether seen or unseen, age, ethnicity, gender, race, sexual orientation, economic status, and other identities. And saying status as opposed to impacted.
I like that.
I think it frames what we're trying to say, which is all folks, and regardless of where you may fall on that scale, we're here.
We got it.
I don't know if.
You were
that-
saying lump that into other identities? Was that?
So
No,
sexual
after sexual orientation, add economic status
and
and
Okay.
other identities, and we could then remove the line that says we recognize to achieve these, we must prioritize investments.
Okay, got it.
Wait, we're not removing that line though, right? We're just removing.
We're
economic-
deleting the word
Yeah.
economically
Yeah.
from it.
Okay.
Yeah.
My respectful pushback is that being poor is not an identity, I don't think. So I'm going to say, I want that, but I think a lot of the work we're doing is helping folks who don't have the means to access our programs. So that's why I wanted it called out. I mean, there's folks who don't feel comfortable accessing our programs, and that is certainly called out, I believe. And I do think, to Miles's point, yeah, it's kind of specifically to folks who don't see themselves here, who we're also aggressively trying to serve to help them have life-changing access to our resources. So how can we do that? And that was kind of the intent of, I think when I first brought it up last meeting, in my head, I actually sent Doug a text and said, wait, I thought it was racial and economic equity. Then, no, okay. I said, well, that conversation bounced around a lot. So I would hate to see it let's just assume that everyone knows that economically, basically poor folks are included in this. I think it's important to kind of be explicit about who we're serving, and that is a sizable portion of who we're putting these programs on to serve. Certainly, there's a big overlap with race and ethnicity and other things like that. So I'd like to figure out. I think the extra bit of oomph on it was specifically calling out that we're recognizing that there's a lot of different ways in which you're marginalized, and we are working to break down those walls. So yeah, I mean, I wouldn't have, for me, I was happy that it was in here, so I wasn't as like laser focused on it, but I guess I would, whatever I want to say, I guess I would ask my peers, is there a way that we can keep that in there, because it's important to let folks see what the aim of the work is also about as far as economic uplift. but I'll.
In that
anybody else?
spirit,
Yeah.
maybe it is the line about we must prioritize investments. I think it's a prioritization piece that is feeling superseded to me over the identities conversation. And so I'm wondering if maybe we call it out more specifically without it being framed as the priority over the identities. Because that's kind of how I'm feeling. Does that make sense?
Oh, for me.
Oh, doesn't necessarily have to be you, Alfredo. Does that make sense to anyone?
It's late.
Rather than saying like economic status, could we say like is economically challenged? A bad word
Yeah,
as an identity?
I don't know. I just don't, I think it's a condition that I hope is not something you're, I'll always be my race or my sexual orientation, probably. But I'm not,
That's true.
Economics is more of a condition that we're working on. So how should we best do this so we're not here all night long? Do we have to punt the whole thing? Do we have to, I know this is a little deflating after we went through this.
Yeah, group editing's hard.
Yeah.
I'm open to suggestions.
Can we just say we must prioritize investments for those most impacted and maybe like say with a special consideration for those economically challenged?
I mean, is it as simple as a critical step to achieving equity is prioritizing investments? I don't know. I mean, I think we're splitting hairs here a little bit.
Well,
I mean, but
I just don't like how it's prioritizing the most economically impacted when I don't know.
I'm going to give her another go. I'm curious if we just change, if we could agree to the language of how to add what we're getting at with those who are economically impacted in the run-on list up above. And keeping that sentence, but instead of saying prioritize, just say we must make investments for the people who are most impacted.
Wait, say that again.
It would be whatever language we decide in the list up above. So if we chose to say ethnicity, gender, race, sexual orientation, economic, I'm open to what the next word is, status, impacted, challenged. We see it as essential to prioritize all aspects of equity in recreation programming and services. THPRD recognizes that to achieve equity, we must make investments for the people who are most impacted. And it removes then that word prioritize. So we're staying centered with the racial equity component up above.
okay.
And it's not making it an identity.
Yeah, because it is a dimension. Yeah, it is a dimension of equity. And so I'd be willing to soften my initial, yes. I'd like to get it across the finish line as well.
So you don't want it to say economic status up above in that list, but do you want it to be like economically disadvantaged?
Perhaps that, I was actually recommending up above, I was saying the second word. So it's how we're framing, I think that we're stuck on to your challenged, disadvantaged, et cetera. So I would be happy to read it again. If we're trying to get it across the finish line, I would be happy to put forward what I'm thinking is the edit that I see, and we could, because I'm kind of piecemealing it. Are we down?
Economic disadvantage works for me.
Okay. THPRD values all dimensions of equity, including people experiencing disabilities, whether seen or unseen, age, ethnicity, gender, race, sexual orientation, economically disadvantaged, and other identities. We see it as essential to prioritize all aspects of equity and recognition in recreation programming and services. THPRD recognizes that to achieve equity, we must make investments for those people who are most impacted. Due to the disparate impacts, a special focus on activities to advance racial equity in it is an important component of our overall equity strategy.
And we get to do this again next year?
Then you'll have agreed to it.
Well, we can tweak it. I'd be willing to go along with that in the interest of, it's in there. I think that's a win. So,
Aisha, your edits.
okay, what else do you need from us?
Uh, So for the second value, environmental stewardship, what I suggested here was simply moving some information that had been in that second budget priority, that was environmental stewardship as well, into the additional text you see here. So it says incorporating sustainability into our operations and by prioritizing investment in climate resiliency measures. So that's the addition. And then the other changes you see were to try and make this more forceful language without using as many words. So not taking away anything, we will reduce our carbon footprint by following our climate action plan. And then the last sentence, we commit to being a leader on environmental education, natural resource protection, and to ensure we pass on a healthy environment to our future generations.
I like it.
Oh, thanks. We're going to jump to the final budget priority and just note that that new line is actually not a new line. It was in the budget priority around the environmental stewardship, and we moved it down here. I think you all had the same suggestion in your board retreat discussion. So that's what that is. And the line we scratched in sustainable and strategic managing limited resources is only because we felt like we have that thought fully covered with the next budget priority being centered on equity. So now should we move to the budget priority on equity?
Right.
Okay. A little bit of a difference here. It is 2 paragraphs, and partially because we felt this is the continuation conversation I had, and you're going to notice a trend. I'm really on my soapbox on we need to empower staff that it's okay that things are going to be different right now. And they really need that confidence boost, and they need to hear, we get it. The world's different and things have to be done different. And that's going to take contemplation and that's going to take, innovation. And so that was the intent of that first paragraph, to say we see it and we want to support you and encourage you to meet today's challenge. And then you can see that the second paragraph is our best articulation of an equity budget priority. Pradna, we heard you and your call for trying to do SMART goals. I hope, I think in a year, if I had a better sense, I might have been a little more specific in this drafting with Julie and Lulu, but we kind of centered ourselves on right now, we want to test new strategies, and we really want to be surveying with our patrons as we're going, how they're working, because we've got to be course correcting as we're going. So it's really a time to be paying attention to immediate patron feedback and adjusting our strategies accordingly.
I like the second paragraph. I like that there is, because of what Lulu shared with us earlier, there is some room to course correct based on how things are changing and what we are getting out of it. I feel like the sentence here, this year we understand we need to examine our programming, da 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 da, right? Like that line, I think, is a repeat of evaluate, adapt, and invest in programming and events. I think we should keep one or the other. I don't see a need to keep those, both of them in the same, under the same bullet.
Does it make or break your thought to approve, or how hard is it to make these, like, okay? Because do we need to, are we able to make these on the fly tonight, or do we need to go? Okay, as long as we're not unnecessarily, yeah, okay.
So is your preference then to scratch that this year we understand we need to examine that line because we've got it down below in the next paragraph?
Correct.
Okay.
And the next line to me reads a bit more actionable.
Okay, great, thank you.
Okay.
I don't know, I kind of like that sentence.
I thought, yeah, I'm with you. Sorry, Tia.
Good.
I thought what you were saying was that when we say this year, we understand we need to examine our programming and events, et cetera, then when you start back, evaluate, adapt, and invest, that was repeated. So I thought you were suggesting that, I know you said either one. I think I would like to keep it in the context of stating that it's this year. I think then the second paragraph could begin with continue to collaborate with community partners, et cetera, because that line about adapting and investing in programming, you're right, is repetitive.
Yeah, the reason I said let's keep the second one is because it has the word invest in it. And this is about budget priorities and we want to talk money. So it's not just we want to evaluate something, we want to evaluate and invest to do something about it. So that's why I thought the second one was better.
Putting in my mind. So sorry, Dean.
I'm with Pradnya.
Okay. I mean, does it materially change if we just keep it the same? I mean, like, that's, I'm asking if it's,
You're right.
are we just kind of using our
Do something about
our voice to,
Yep.
I mean, I want to make sure we're at this, especially, I mean, this is important, but I want to make sure we're not just overly making it perfect where this has been
I like it in both.
kind of well vetted already. So, so if we have changes, I want to make sure they're really, so it's like, I don't want this one the way it is because it's a bridge too far or not a bridge or a half bridge. So do we feel like it's to
Good,
that
Barbie.
level?
I think I'm okay with it being repeated. Like I'm worried that I am a bit of decision fatigue at the moment. And so and we are doing the live editing. So when you flag it, I immediately go, oh, you're right, it is duplicative. But when I've read it and sat with it, it didn't stick out to me. And I do think there is a distinction between calling out this moment. And then I think you make a very good point about therefore investment. So I think the double stack doesn't bother me. And I think, to use your word, Alfredo, if it doesn't materially change it, it doesn't feel too wordy, I would be okay leaving as is.
Yeah, and I don't think it's a big deal, but the only reason I want to make sure we are crystal clear about this, we were at the LC Stir Center today, and when they were giving us comments and feedback, they actually brought printouts of our mission, vision, values, statements. And I know there is a decision fatigue right now, so I propose if we come back and rethink, maybe think about it a little bit, because I don't want to publish this on the website where like some of us are still like, we spent like 10 minutes putting the word economically somewhere in this. And in the next 2 minutes, I just don't want to say I'm okay with it because somebody is going to hold this and say, oh, by the way, this is what your website said. I just want us to take a moment to think about it.
But I think that was because like I felt like that changed something. I mean, taking it out or being duplicative doesn't change anything on here. It doesn't like modify what we're trying to say. Except the only reason why I like it, again, as Barbie says, is because it puts the context. Because we've never had a like a context section like this before in the history of any of our budget priorities. So I think it is actually very important to call out that this year, and it is a little bit different, and it's just saying that this year we know we have to do all these things. So how are we going to do it? We're going to evaluate, we're going to adapt, and we're going to invest. Like they are saying a little bit of different things. So whether it's like this year we understand we need to provide services differently. I don't know if that's like something that encompasses all that, and if it just has to sound a little bit different. But I do like that it specifically says this year what we're talking about. So
like I said, I know it takes a lot of effort for the staff to go back and edit this, so I don't want to like us to spend too much time on debating on the words, but I want to be very careful. And again, we need to think about this as budget priorities. These are about our budget, about the money, where we want to spend it. The top ones are our values and how we want to approach our community differently and what we stand for. So when we are writing these, we need to think from a budget lens. In our last month's retreat, right? The focus was like let's talk about what it is in the specific sections. So that's where my head is, but I know how much time and energy it takes to like I said, we spent 20 minutes on where to put the word economically. So I don't want to do the same thing for this. So if it is not a big deal and it fits within your one page, Polly, I'm okay to keep it.
So I'm going to ask again, Doug, at this point, do you think, I mean,
I'm so sorry.
9 o'clock, but hold on one second, Miles. Let me just see. Should we give us all a chance to sit with these more? Because I feel like, yeah, I feel like I would hate to get something that people are unsatisfied with and then because you're right, Pradney, these are important and I don't want to be too tired to do it. It has been a long day. So yeah, if we have room, any objections to that, to just spending a little more time with this?
Well, I do want to hear.
Yeah, go ahead, Miles. Yeah.
I will bring my notes next month.
Perfect. Yeah, yeah. Okay, okay. Thank you all. No, that's good. I think we need to get it right and not be totally dissatisfied. Okay. So we are going to postpone that vote to next month. This meeting's adjourned.